After the pause I realized he wasn't going to say anything else, so with all the bravery I could muster I asked, "Are you the armed robber?" and gestured to his hands in his pockets. AskReddit. Serious, what is your true creepy story? So, my wife and 4-year-old daughter are having a nap one lazy afternoon, and my 4-year-old was restless, just having woken up, and my wife wasn't fully awake yet. When my 4-year-old, staring dead above my wife at the head of her bed, just says rather sharply, "Don't touch my mommy, okay?" and goes back and does her thing. My wife, having seen enough horror movies, just decides not to ask her or explore the situation further. Nothing's happened since, just the one isolated incident that still creeps the shit out of her. I come from a small city in Australia. About 20 years ago a girl went missing, Rihanna Barrow, and the case has never been solved. Sadly, I think it's been long forgotten, but at the time it was a major news story. Anyway, about a month after her disappearance, myself and a friend were walking through a park around the area she vanished from. We were about 11 at the time. We step out onto this street and see this boy around 7 years old hurrying down the street. A car is following him, slowly, about 10 meters behind him. We thought it looked strange, and my friend, being a bit more switched on than me, called to the kid pretending to be a friend, and he ran over. The car stops in the middle of the street. We couldn't see who was in it, but there were 2 men in the car. After a long standoff, my heart pounding away in my chest, as we could all sense something was wrong, the car slowly pulls away and heads off down another street, and one of them waved out the window at us. The kid said it had followed him from the corner store a few blocks away. My biggest regret was after walking with this kid back to his house, which was only a few streets away, we sort of decided not to tell anyone, and I don't know why. Walking home from pub one night. Usually walk with friends, but for whatever reason I was alone that night and pretty drunk too. It usually takes about 20 minutes at a good pace to get from pubs. Felt like someone was behind me for ages and noticed someone a few times crossing the road after I had. Don't think anything of it, as the pubs are popular where I live and a lot of people are wandering at this time. Anyway, there's some pretty isolated wooded area that's really dark, and just as I was about to go into it I noticed a guy behind me. I'm a guy, so I'm expecting a mugging fight. I stop and do a big loop, constantly checking over my shoulder until I'm back at the wooded bit and he's still behind me. I remember watching a show where a criminal was interviewed and said he'd target someone with their back turned cause they wouldn't be able to identify him. And at that moment I just turned round to face the guy and shouted out descriptions about his appearance: red jumper, black boots, long beard, stocky build, my height, mid-40s. The guy just stops dead and turns around and walks in the opposite direction. He could have been enjoying a walk for all I know, but I don't regret doing what I did. Background: I work in a solicitor's. I'm a secretary. I work in a solicitor's office and the receptionist was out sick this one day and I had to cover for her for the day. The reception is at the very front of the building and kind of cut off from everything else. You have to walk through at least 2 doors and down a hallway to get to anyone else in the building. Because we were short staffed, I was completely on my own out there. Usually not a big deal. Anyway, this bloke comes in. Quite tall, 6+. He's wearing old clothes and a baggy hoodie with the hood up. He has his hands in his pocket and is acting all shift and paranoid. I go through the usual "hi, can I help you" blah blah. He's still acting weird, like looking around himself and not looking me directly in the eye. I really wasn't prepared for his answer: "Do you deal with armed robberies?" My heart literally stopped for a second. I didn't know what the hell to say to this guy, and there was no one close by that could help if anything happened. No one would even hear me if I shouted. This guy didn't explain himself either. He just asked me that question and let it sit there between us. After the pause I realized he wasn't going to say anything else, so with all the bravery I could muster I asked, "Are you the armed robber?" and gestured to his hands in his pockets. He changed in a second. He obviously realized how he was coming across and didn't want to frighten me. He took his hands out of his pockets and pulled his hood down so I could see his face and was just repeating, "No love, I'm so sorry." He explained then that he was the one that was robbed and wanted to take legal action. Of course. By the end of the encounter we were laughing about it. but for a good 5 seconds I thought shit, this is it. He's not gonna be happy with the £30 in petty cash and just shoot me. My friend passed away at 19 from an overdose. This was over 10 years ago. We all went to the funeral and burial and helped his girlfriend move out of the house and back into her parents'. 2 months later I was hanging out with my friend. It was late at night, which was normal teenage behavior. We just sitting in his car outside his house when his phone rang. He just gave it to me and I looked at it in disbelief. Our deceased friend was calling, or someone had his number now. I flipped it open and put it on speaker and said hello. No answer. Just clicking and the call ended. I looked at my friend like WTF and he said it had been happening the past few days and he didn't think anyone would believe him. This death hit home for all of us but more so for him since his sister was going to marry the guy and they got along really well. I called the number back. It was disconnected. It happened a few weeks later then stopped altogether. I was about 11, watching my little sisters and brother while my parents were out at the store. We lived in the country, but had a neighbor we shared a driveway with. The neighbor was a fisherman and was away for work. He has been gone for months. Our bedroom was on the second floor of the house. I happened to glance out the window and there was a guy dressed as a clown on our neighbor's patio. Tight black clothes, horrible clown face, red fluffy hair. I thought I was dreaming so I called my sister over to look. She saw him too. He slowly turned his head and looked right up at us. He gave this nasty slow smile and waved and beckoned to us. Nope. We ran and hid under the bed until our parents got home. Freaking clowns. So much nope. This happened when I was at university about 10 years ago. I hadn't experienced anything like it before, and I haven't experienced anything like it since. I like to tell myself that it was an elaborate prank, given the circumstances, but I don't know who did it or why. I lived on the north side of town, and the university library was in the south. The streets are numbered north to south, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, etc. But a train track with a small woody area cuts through between 13th and 14th Street. And only a few roads actually cross it or go under it. I was studying late at the library until maybe 2 AM and was walking home on Friday the 13th. To get to my apartment, I have to walk north a ways, then jig down 13th to get to a road that passes under the railway. As I turn onto 13th, the street light above me goes out. This happens a lot, so I don't think much of it until the next street light goes out while I'm under it. 2. Then the next. Then the next. As I reach about the middle of the block, all of the streetlights in front of me go out, too. But the first one turns back on. Drawn by the light, I turn around and look. Standing directly under the light is a figure wearing a white hoodie and dark pants. It is looking down at the ground, so I can see no face. It is not moving. Behind me, the streetlight on the other end of the block turns on, and I turn to glance at the light. It's standing there, about 500 yards from the first street light. White hoodie, dark pants, looking down. I double take back to the first light. Nobody is there. Now I'm pretty freaked out. The figure in front of me slowly looks up. The hood looks empty. I try to sound manly and say hello, but I'm a little squeaky. The figure turns and walks across the street into the woody area by the tracks. I can see the white of the hoodie for a little while, then it's gone. All of the streetlights on the block, about 10, turned back on all at once. I ran home. There was a lady, my friend's half-sister's mom, if that makes any sense, who would cut my hair at my house. She had a boyfriend who I had met once, very briefly, about a year after meeting him. She came over to cut my hair, but this time, she unexpectedly brought her boyfriend along with her. I hadn't seen her in a while and it seemed like something was different, and he was acting very odd. She went to the bathroom and he began proposing that we hang out sometime, but she can't know. I'm serious, I said sure just to get him off my back. I honestly thought they were on drugs and I was just trying to keep everything peaceful and get them out of there ASAP. As they were finally leaving, he's behind her and he goes to wave goodbye and throws a note on the ground that said call me, it's our secret promise, with his phone number on it. I did not call. 2 days later I kept getting missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. I never answered them. Then eventually I got a text message saying, "Hey, it's Ray," his name. "Can you please call me? I really need your help with something." I didn't respond. He kept texting me, saying he needed a favor, since I never gave him my phone number to begin with, and since this man knows where I live. I was pretty alarmed. I tried to go to the police station to see if there was anything I could do, but the station I went to was not open to the public. That was the only station I knew of. I could have looked up another one, but I kinda felt stupid for being there in the first place, you know, so I just went home. The next morning at 8 AM I wake up to very loud banging on my door. I couldn't see anyone out the window and I don't have a peephole, so I opened the door a little bit. I thought it could have been my parents since I live right by them, but no, it was Ray. He was pressed up against the door, which is why I couldn't see him out the window. He was smiling and I quickly shut the door on him and called 911. He left before the cop showed up and sent a text message to the effect of, "I don't want to inconvenience you. Sorry to bug you." The cop told me to text him back saying, "Do not contact me in any way, shape, or form or I will go to the police again," and made me take a picture of the cop car in front of my house and send that too. Then he left saying it's not illegal for someone to like you. Well, the next day I got another missed call from Ray's number, so I went to a different police station. The usual front desk person was sick and the man filling in for her was a cop. He seemed like he actually wanted to help me, and after a quick type in of Ray's phone number to his computer, he had me come around to identify his mugshot. It turns out Ray is a level 3 sex offender, a child rapist to be exact. He wasn't even allowed in my state. The cop said that was just the beginning of it, but wasn't allowed to further discuss his charges. Though he did mention that I was Ray's type. I was 23 at the time but looked 15/16. Ray was 38. So I had to take screenshots of every missed call and every text message. Take pictures of the note. Put the note in a baggie and bring it to the police. I googled his name and found some articles about him being a sex offender. I printed them out along with my screenshots and took them to the courthouse to file a stalking order. It should have just been a harassment order, but the lady there told me to put stalking so I wouldn't have to pay the $85 fee. Eventually the cops found him a few days later, arrested him, and served him his papers. We had a court date which he did not show up to and I was given a 10-year protection order. Last I heard, he was released from jail but went back for burglary. Thanks for watching. If you were creeped out by any of these stories, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more creepy content. Take a gander at these other videos below. See you next time.